Hello everyone! Welcome back to the studio for this week's episode of Tutorial Tuesday. My name's Kaylee. I paint wet on wet landscape oil paintings, and today you're here for Tutorial Tuesday number 51. I thought today we would do kind of a misty scene. It's springtime. We're rolling into, getting almost summertime here in the United States, and in the other hemisphere, it's actually going into wintertime. So I was kind of thinking about a couple of my subscribers who are over in the other areas, and just thought we would maybe play up some of those autumn kind of winter vibes just for a little episode here, just to cool it off for a bit. If you'd like to paint along, be sure to check the description below for the entire paint list. Let's jump right up to the canvas over here. I have my standard 18 by 24 inch canvas up in my easel here, and I've already prepped it with a very thin, even coat of liquid white, and it's ready to go. Let's move on to the painting part. I'm just gonna grab my trusty, I've been using the 1-inch brush to paint a lot and put all of my colors in, but let's do it with the big brush today and just get a little bit daring. I'm going to use phthalo blue and phthalo green to create our little misty scene. So I'm just going to mix those two on the brush until I kind of get to a color that I like. I kind of like that, but it seems a little too pure, just a little too vibrant. So I just dulled it down just a tiny bit with some Van Dyke Brown. And let's go with this. So to get started, our light source is kind of coming from the left-hand side today, and we're in a nice big gully with a lake here. So let's just dance in a little bit of misty light, just something up here. We're gonna have some trees and everything working into this background, but we just want to move in a little bit of color. I just picked up a tiny bit more Van Dyke Brown. And let's do something similar to that. We'll just kind of work in some colors down below as well. Thought this would be a nice loose painting, really just to let you have some fun with the paintbrush. I'm just using the same brush now that we've gotten rid of some of the paint to soften this. Now we have a little bit of a backdrop here, and we're not just working with a white canvas. We'll just kind of soften this all the way through. Maybe a touch more phthalo blue. We're going to have some reflections down here, so we're just pulling that flat out. Soften it all together. You could pick up another blending brush if you wanted to get it softer, but this brush is doing okay. It's clean enough. We want to just get out most of the brush strokes and make sure the paint is even all over the place. Okay, I'm just trying to plan out what I'm doing here because I haven't planned it yet. This is my first time painting this scene. I have this little sketch over here that I'm checking out and just winging it. So anyway, I'm mixing up a color here with the same colors we've already been using. Phthalo green, phthalo blue, and Van Dyke brown. I'm going to put a little bit of that on the fan brush and then pick up some titanium white. Touch more Van Dyke brown in there now. A little bit more. I know, let's grab just a touch of crimson. There we go. Just wasn't quite the right flavor. Now we're rolling. Okay, so what we're gonna do is just kind of build a hillside back here between some mist and some pine trees. So we'll just dance in a layer maybe up here. Just worry about the top edge. Nothing below here. None of that matters. We're just trying to get a little idea up here, kind of farther away. Maybe something like this. Then we'll take our blending brush, just whatever brush you have that's clean enough, and tap. Just give it a little bit of mist. Kind of just makes the bottom of these trees disappear. And try not to go in a completely straight line. You can just vary it up a little bit. Once you've tapped out some of that paint, I like to just get out some of the brush strokes, and pulling them straight up works really well. Then you can just soften out some of those marks that you might have gotten. Let's keep working this. I'm going to grab just a touch more of our dark. Maybe we've got one right here. Just a little hill there. And make sure they're going straight up. It definitely looks a lot better. Keep this going. We're going to do this a lot in this scene, just working on different layers and layering them together. So just keep loading up your fan brush. Maybe this one kind of slopes down a little before it goes back up. Need to get some more paint on the brush. Make sure that there's enough paint, or else this definitely won't work. Just wiggle it through the paint and then pull down. And you're going to get a good point at the end that you can work with. Let's say, what the heck, right up to there maybe for a minute. And just maybe a little bit bigger here. My microphone cord is tickling me on the leg. I was very confused. Okay, just tapping out this next layer. This is what we're going to be doing a lot. This isn't as relaxing of a painting, I don't think. Sometimes all these tap marks are kind of, I don't know, let me know if you prefer. I know Jennifer really likes the palette knife. That's a little bit more relaxing for her, and the tap of the brush is maybe less, but I don't know. Everybody's different. I think it's pretty fun. Get a little bit of these variety of trees over here. I feel like this ridge just kind of stops right here, so I'm just going to kind of bring a little bit of that down. That's better. Let's say we want, maybe there are some kind of deciduous trees in here, and we're moving into autumn, so they're not changing colors yet, but maybe we have just a few layers of a hill back here. Let's try something like this, maybe something like this. And you know what we almost forgot is some of our reflection. Let's try and remember to put some of this in here. Let's see, we've got some pine trees that are coming down. What am I doing? Let's see. I think we are going up. You got to think about this. Up, 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 and we're about there. So we can just kind of pull down a little bit like that, and then you can soften it a little. You can make it not a smooth reflection or a very smooth reflection. That's totally up to you. So we just want to put in a little idea, right? Let's do another layer. We've got another dark layer kind of coming up. A little bit more paint there. And then maybe we've got some color up in here. They're just reflections. You don't have to try super, super hard on these. There's definitely a few key takeaways, but pull them down straight and we'll flatten them out and they'll look great. Let's do a little bit of blending. We can just pull them in either direction that seems fitting to kind of soften and give you that little bit of that mist in here. And then we're looking at on the top, somewhere over here, we've got some mounds coming down, right? Something like this. And they're going to be flatter in the reflection, so it doesn't have to be the same distance, if that makes sense. Just kind of look and see which direction you think you should pull it, and you can just kind of pull this one in, we can pull this one back, all kinds of fun stuff. We just want to have the idea so that we don't forget it. Now let's soften this. I think I want to put a little bit of a highlight on there. I'm just going to pick up a new fan brush and go right into the Indian yellow. Let's grab a touch of yellow ochre, just a sneaking touch of bright red, and then we're going to go right into our green mixture and grab a little dab of that. And last, all the layers. Okay, the last bit is just a touch of liquid white to kind of thin it down. looking for a nice, fun light green, but we don't want to steal away from the show just yet. We just want to give an idea. I think some more white. Give a little bit of an idea out here of some light just barely dancing on some of these hills out here. And I just want this even more green. Let's do, yeah, that's what I want. Nice. Just soften that back there, and we'll pop some right in here. Maybe right here as well. Maybe just a touch. Okay, now I'm seeing something there, and we'll just soften this. Now, let's mix up a good bit of dark here. Phthalo green, phthalo blue, Van Dyke brown, and alizarin crimson. Nice dark color here. And we're going to load up our fan brush with this. Now we're going to build some trees that are a little bit closer here. Oh, and you know, we did forget just a touch of some of this green, just a little hint of this. We can just pop that in for our reflections. Maybe we have a few trees out here still. And you can even pull out a couple and make them stand up a little taller and sneak them there right in front. Like that. Let's blend this a little. We're still going for misty here, so let's soften out. Just keep on blending this. I'm still using the same big brush from earlier. And we'll just keep on moving some of those same colors around. It's great. Who cares? You can just wipe it off. Okay, now I'm seeing, let's do some trees. This hill, maybe there's a hill here and maybe another hill. Oh, sometimes even I have a hard time deciding, because you get an idea and then you start painting and it goes completely different, or you know, you just see something and then you start following that, and then soon enough you're really far away from your original idea. I don't know if that's ever happened to any of you, but it for sure happens to me quite a lot. But I just like to be really flexible on what I'm painting and just let whatever happens happen, you know, and have fun and just be kind of spontaneous and paint whatever you want to paint, not feel limited by anything. You can tell I was having a hard time getting this paint in, or the brush kind of in a finer line, and that's just loading, so you just load it again. Whew. throwing my brush. That was a good catch. Hopefully I won't edit it out like I do all my other fails of dropping my stuff. I drop my knives and tools so often that I cut like half of them out just because I'm trying to catch it as it's falling. But anyway, just gonna soften this one. We can go ahead and maybe finish this area off up here. Something like that, and then just tidy up, soften. And if you feel like it's just not getting the misty effect that you want, or you want it even mistier, you just take your same brush that you've been working with, dip it right into thick titanium white. Thick, it has to be thick. Thick titanium white. And then you just start to work it into the canvas. Be sure not to get stuck tapping just in one exact spot. Always move it around a little bit. And you'll get some fun movement. You can just wipe off some of that. We're just picking up a bunch. And now you can just tap that and soften it right out. Super fun way to give a little bit of a mist out here. And maybe let's pick up just a tiny bit of liquid white on the palette knife. We can just go right into whatever this green mixture. And you just want to scrape in a few sticks and twigs up there. Then I think we'll come in and do a few more. Maybe we have this set of trees here. Let's do and we need some of this up here. Trying to get some harmony with some of our reflections, make sure we're not forgetting some of these. You just want to give a nice idea, you know, that you thought about them. Okay, move on to, let's soften this one here, just right at the base. Tap that. I don't know what we're doing out here yet. We might do some more mounds, I think. Let's do some more kind of either rolling hills or, yeah, I think maybe just like right out of this tree. There's a little bit of a hill that we're catching. Maybe this hill, whoop, comes right over here. Now let's soften out the bottom of this. Okay, dokay. What am I doing? Let's put in just a couple. Van Dyke Brown, Dark Sienna, Titanium White. And let's just pop in a few stumps. These trees are still pretty far away. I just bumped my camera, sorry. So we might not see too much. Titanium White. Touch more of that in Van Dyke Brown. Just a little bit of a slightly brighter color, but we're still keeping pretty much everything to this blue shadow side, right? Everything is misty, keeping with that fun misty feel. Love it. Some more sticks up here. That seems, I like that. Just kind of makes it feel like there's a bunch more trees and you just, you know, you were really trying super hard to put in a bunch of them, but it didn't. A little trick. There you go. Not as much work, same effect. Now let's look at maybe filling these areas here just a touch. I want to kind of bring this together and maybe we'll just add in a couple more pine trees just right down here to kind of fill in this little bit of a space that we have. It's just a tiny bit. Some of that mistiness might be nice. Maybe you want to keep it like that. I don't know. But I just want to put maybe some bushes. There we go. We've just fixed that right up there. Now we can come in. We've got our trees here. Let's make sure we have this big one here. And then we have our little hill. And some dark. put it in. Doesn't matter. Yeah, okay. Now, I think we should pop on just a handful of highlights on these trees. I want to keep it to the blue side, not necessarily on the green side yet. We have some green, but we'll just use kind of this mixture here and some liquid white to get it to stick. One slightly on the left-hand side. We'll just tap on a little bit of light. If the paint doesn't stick, thin it down, and then it will. All right, and now let's do a little bit of liquid white. A little bit more of this color. And let's find some highlights for this grass. Vary up the colors, but keep it nice and thin so that it sticks. And I'm just mixing in some liquid white when I need to. A little bit more shadowy over here. So let's put in our brighter color over on this side. Pop in a little bit of that. Now we'll get some of our blues and we'll get some yellow, ochre, and red. And we'll just pop in some grass on this side. It still matters, so make sure that you lay it out nicely. You'll still see it, but it's in the shadows. Nice and soft. Now we can just take our blending brush and tap. Up a little. Nice. All right, we're gonna put in a little bit of a shoreline back here for this kind of hillside over here. Maybe we'll pop in just a small handful of trees just down a little bit lower. A little bit of phthalo blue and phthalo green. Alizarin crimson. I just ran out of them on my palette. Got it loaded up. Right. Grab some crimson with that and some Van Dyke brown. Nice. Just pick up your fan brush and we'll pick out a couple more. Let's just say maybe we've got a couple over here. And we can build on it just a touch. Now we'll get nice and good amount of paint loaded up and then pick out a couple and really put in some detail, give them a decent reflection. You're probably not going to see this back here, but that's okay. We'll see the top, and that's what matters. One more. And I think over here, maybe we'll just kind of leave it a little bit misty, because that seems nice. Now we'll pull down these reflections back here. Okay, now let's pick out a little bit of rock color. Van Dyke Brown, Dark Sienna, Phthalo Blue, Alizarin Crimson. Cut off a roll, and we're just going to lay out. We're kind of like scraping it in because we don't want it to be too dark, too thick, any of that. We can even throw in a few of those and a few highlights on the trees. Just a touch out there. And we'll use the palette knife with a little bit of titanium white and just some of our muddy blues. And we'll touch a brown. There we go. It's kind of a nice gray color, and we can just throw on some dirt onto the shoreline. We can use this color on the other side to put in just a tiny idea of a waterline over here. And then we'll get a tiny bit of liquid white to this mixture just to make it a little thinner. And we can pull in our water lines here. I forgot. Skipping steps. Just pull down a touch of that. We just want to bring it all together and reflect some of those colors into the water. Now we can do our water line nice and flat. We'll leave that because we are going to kind of put in a whole nother layer here. We might not see much of this. We'll see some of this, but we want to just kind of leave this a little misty and eerie. Maybe we can bring down a couple more good reflections for these big trees. Since we kind of lost those, we need some here. Sometimes you don't know how far in the shores or the painting is going to be, or where you're going to line everything up. So I didn't know for sure where the shoreline was going to be over here. So we kind of lost some of the reflections. But it is further away, so it's okay. We'll just pull in a little bit of an idea. Now it kind of darkens up that area. Gives us a nice misty, moody feel in there. Now, the last bit. This might still take a minute to get done, but my favorite part, I think, is going to be this. I'm gonna pile up my dark colors because I need them. And I'm going to lay in a little bit of the land further here into the foreground. And we'll put a little cabin out here. Okay, let's do some highlights on that. Let's make this nice and golden. Just cleaning off some of the green from my brush so that I can get some fresh yellow if possible. We'll see how long it'll last. Indian yellow and yellow ochre. Just a touch of this, and we're going to highlight this grassy area. I need some bright red. And then we're going to kind of soften this back out on this side here. And we may see a little flatness here. Now, let's take some of these colors and throw them into the water. Yeah, I want to do some really fun, it's kind of strange to call them an evergreen because they're not actually green during the winter time, but there's some really nice, they are still evergreens, evergreen trees. They're like pine needles and they turn gold in the winter time. So we're going to paint some of those. They're gold but pine needle trees. I think we're just going to pop in a bunch. Like they're all, like a bunch of them back here, kind of in the foreground and in the background. Some further away and some in front, if that makes sense. Then maybe we'll have a big bundle here. Let's see. this down. And then we're gonna have a bunch of them right out here too. So let's just get started with these. I guess you could paint these in with a paintbrush. The reasoning I'm not is because I kind of just wanted it to look like thicker paint out here. And I want them to be really dark, and I don't want to be dragging around a bunch of paint or thinning my paint. So I just thought this would be a fun way, and it is like a pretty simple way to make sure that you're doing a bunch of straight trees, but you also don't want them to be perfectly straight. So anyway, I'll just keep putting these in. And they're nice and dark, so they're very visible. Now, I want to put in just a touch of some dark golds here, kind of setting up our color scheme. And I'm gonna use, what should I use? I'm kind of thinking the 1-inch brush would be a good option here. So let's see how this goes. I'm gonna go straight into the Van Dyke, or Dark Sienna and Bright Red. Dark Sienna, Bright Red, Yellow Ochre. A little more yellow to that. And we'll see if we can get that brush to kind of come into a little bit of a point, because these trees kind of are growing in an upward direction. So let's see what we've got here. Now we might have to use a touch, which I didn't know if we were going to need to, but a touch of liquid white to thin that down. Just a little bit. Maybe look for kind of a medium texture. Yeah, and this just isn't working, so I'm going to use a fan brush. It's going to take longer to use a fan brush. I thought it would be more convenient to use a 1-inch brush, but I was wrong. So I'm going to clean off this brush, go into our mixture again. Indian Yellow, Bright Red, Yellow Ochre, and Van Dyke Dark Sienna, excuse me, Dark Sienna. And we'll just kind of tap don't want to get rid of all of our branches that we put on, or all of these tree trunks, but we definitely want to get an idea of some of these out here. So we're going to put some branches in, a dark bit of branches in, and then we're going to come in and put some more tree stumps. So we're putting in kind of the trees behind in the back area. And we're going to be picking up paint from behind, that's okay. Just try and work with it. You can wipe off your brush or just keep using it. Let's do a little bit here. Yellow Ochre, Indian Yellow, Van Dyke Brown, Bright Red. We need a combination of translucent colors and opaque colors so that this will show up. And we're going to come on top of it with even more, with a little bit of the liquid white into one of these colors, so it's going to pop even more. But we're starting off getting some of these colors into the scene. Now I'm going to take my palette knife and scrape up, because I know I'm going to be filling this with my gold color. I'm just going to scrape off some paint. That way I'm not mixing with a bunch of my dark. And it'll mostly still be up there, no big deal. Let's grab some titanium white, yellow ochre, Indian yellow, bright red, and Van Dyke brown. Get that mixing in on the brush, and we're going to try and work this gold color in here once more. Okay. Now we need to clean off our brush very nicely, and we're going to highlight some of these and see if we can get them to pop with some fresh Indian yellow and liquid white. Each time that you put on some highlight, make sure to work it as much as you can somewhere else, maybe through some lower areas, and not waste some of your bright color. But definitely try and use it up as much as you can before you go and reload, because you're going to have to wipe off the brush. And let's pop in some of this. A tiny bit. We kind of forgot about the red, whatever. We'll just deal with it. Wipe off some of the greens, go back into your nice and bright color. Maybe we'll hit it with a touch of red and Indian yellow, liquid white. And maybe we'll get this one back here. Wipe off that green. A little bit more right out on these, kind of on those tips there. All right, now let's pick out a couple more with our palette knife, some more tree branches. You can just throw some new ones in right over the top, and maybe we'll have another one or two. You can add some more to the ones hiding behind. Then we'll come in with a little bit of our red mixture and yellows. And we can pop on the left-hand side just a touch of highlight. Now, I think it's always really fun to scrape in a few sticks and twigs, and you can even grab some of that dark paint from the stump and pull it right out. Right, I'm going to pop on a little bit of something there just below those trees. And now we're going to work on these highlights in the water. I just didn't want to muddy up my brush too much because we're going to be using it, and I just really didn't want to mess it up. So you can even use this brush that had some of our reds in it. Well, no, never mind. I keep thinking things are gonna work and they're not, but that's okay. Okay, let's grab some of the golds, and we want to make this gold one here in our reflections, and we're gonna have gold up this as well, right? Somewhere in here. Okay, now we clean off the brush and get into our whites and yellow, nice and bright color. Get a touch of red with that. We still want it to be kind of more golden than the yellow, and the bright red really just brings that out. And then we'll pop in some gold bright to our water. Okay, let's try that. I think I'm going to pull down my reflections. Then soften that out a little. Nice. I think we're gonna put an old shack out here. I'll leave some of that Van Dyke brown for later. Pick up a bunch of browns. Mix in your brown. Maybe there's some blue, maybe there's some red in it. It doesn't matter. We're just gonna put in a nice little, probably don't need to scrape it out, but I think it's maybe wise. And we'll just scrape out a little shack over here. And put in a roof. All right, now we've got a nice idea. We can pull down, get this outside here, pull that straight down, give it some walls, give it a roof, just using all my dark that we just mixed up those browns. And give it a little roof over here. Now, let's put a little bit of color on it. I think I'll just get a little titanium white and grab some of that same color. Let's just not do anything too crazy. And our light is coming from the left-hand side, so this side is going to be very dark. We almost don't need anything over here, but we're going to put something anyway. Pull straight down. And maybe right on the corner. We'll get this nice dark roof there. There we go, and pull that right over the top. I think for today, first this might need a little more dark over here, and maybe we can even put the door on this side and give it some doorway edges. A little extra globby there. Oh well. Maybe give him a red door. Now I just ruined it. Okay, let's try again. Pick out whatever color. That doesn't look good, so I'm doing dark. Now I've got a nice little bit of a gray mixture. And you just kind of use that to outline the doorway there. And we'll use just a nice brownish, reddish mixture for the roof. Red is a good color. We can even get a little crazy and put some highlight or some of these leaves on them just here and there. We'd get some of that color maybe. And we'll put some over here. All right, and now what we need to do is add our cabin into the reflection. Some dark colors and a pitched roof. Some of our reds. Some of our yellows. Maybe even our door. And let's pop on just a touch. There we go, that looks better. And we can match that down below, something like that. Then we can just kind of cut off some of the cabin on the bottom and put in some little shrubs, trees and such. Just use some of this nice lime green color we've got going. Just a nice fun little bit of an accent in here. Right there at the base of the house, and bring it down to the shoreline there. And maybe we just have a little shore right here on the edge. Just kind of something really simple, kind of flat. We can grab some highlights, some yellows and golds and reds, and highlight these rocks. Let's take our blending brush. Trusty blending brush, and let's make some reflections all the way across now. Straight. It's got to be flat or it just won't work. Now we've got a lot of color down here, so it's okay that we kind of lost some of this, but what we're going to do is just put in a touch of blue to really make this nice and dark where the house is. And you can just add that in. Just because we know this is all dark and we know that that reflection for sure has to be there, you can just kind of put it in over the top and just make it believable. It doesn't have to be perfect. Just make it close. Now, I think the last thing is we need just a tiny bit of kind of shadow colors here on this house. I'm gonna start. That's probably gonna be really, really bright, but we'll see if we can get this. I just have like a white and blue mixture and brown. I just wanted to pull up a touch of this right at the bottom of our roof and kind of pull out a few feature points like this. Then we can do something very similar to make sure that we have some of these colors, and it just kind of will help our eyes believe this shadow down here is our house. Just very carefully. There we are. Now you've got a cool reflection there by that house. I think we need some color. We'll see what we can get. Liquid white and our yellows, maybe some reds. I just want a little bit of a pop in here in a couple areas just to kind of open that up and kind of mix it up a little. Then I'm going to use my knife and cut in a few more sticks and twigs out here. Yeah, I think this turned into a really fun little scene. I'm gonna pull in a water line out here, coming all the way around. And maybe we'll even work in just a few water lines out here. I want it to be pretty smooth so that we can see our good reflections. But we still want to add in a few kind of ripples into the water, and you can just use your knife to kind of move back and forth and scrape a few things in. Maybe I'll clean up this bottom area right here. Now my brush is way too dirty. That one's dirty too. All of them are dirty. What am I doing? Just gonna wipe it off. It's okay. We can pick up a little bit of light color from over here and just soften that right out. Okay, this painting is missing one big giant tree, so we're gonna do that. And I haven't done one in a while, so we'll see how much paint is left, but maybe we'll have just enough for something we'll say is living right here on this shore, an opposite shoreline over here or something, perchance. Just fill it in. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Now I've got some paint loaded up here, and I'm gonna go for a big tree. let's make this bottom nice and big. Good strong tree here. Maybe it goes clear off the canvas. Now we've got a shadow side over here and maybe a little bit of a highlight side on the left, but it's not going to be very bright because we've got kind of a dark scene happening here. So we can just take a little bit of white and our blues. And I'm going to pull bark down in this direction. So I'm going right on the edge and pulling my paint down and letting it break. It's a little tricky to see. We're running out of our darks. And just mix up a tiny bit more of that blue for our trunk right out here. We need some more Van Dyke brown in that's for sure. There we go. We really wanted this to be nice and dark over here. Now we've got multiple colors all just getting mixed together and layering them together there. Now we can take some bright red and dark sienna. We're going to use a little bit of yellow ochre, marble that, and we need some titanium white. And I ran out of like all my colors today. Little titanium white. And we're gonna take this nice reddish mixture and we want this down on the left-hand side. Now I'm using a really thick paint, and this thick paint is sticking to a thick paint as well. So if it's not sticking, then you might have too thin of paint and then you're going to just start pulling the paint off. So play with the textures until you get the effect that you want, because it's always going to be different and you're always going to be playing with the texture and it's always going to be slightly different. You just have to know what it feels like so that you can change it or make it the way that you want it to be. I'm just going to put in just a tiny bit more of a pop on our shadow side, kind of closer to the water. And this will just be nice and shiny once it dries, just like the water is kind of giving a little bit of a blue reflection right there on the back side. Now we want to put on a few little branches. I'm going to use my brush wash and Van Dyke brown. Just going to try and keep it simple. And these bristles are all largely directioned up. We'll make this one of our golden pines that's out there. And just we'll do a few branches on this guy. We don't really want too much happening out over here. We just don't need that much, but I thought it would be fun to pop in a big tree. I think it's always better to have that unexpected last bit where you're like, ooh, that was fun. I'm really glad I did it. That's how I'm going to feel about this tree. Pretty sure of it. We'll give him some more branches. And maybe let's leave it like that. And while we have this here, I'm going to go into some liquid white and get some bright yellow. Let's just get a nice thin bright color, and we'll start throwing in a few little grasses out here that are standing out. Largely anything that's thin is going to help, and you'll be able to pull some of this paint up. We're just getting a little idea. Maybe there's some rocks out here. I think we've got some rock color left. Here we go. Some Van Dyke brown. And pick up some of our reds. Then we can just take our fan brush and work in some grass. And this is like our autumn grasses. They kind of turn browns and reds and yellows. I don't have a lot of those colors left on my palette, so I'm just kind of working with what I got. But we can put in a little bit of some browns and just kind of get that in there. And then we'll finish off with some more grasses. And we have this nice, lovely grass color that we just put on. Now with your thin paint, you'll be able to pull up some of that color. And it goes right on top of those grasses that you already laid out. Now let's do a little fun stuff here. Just gonna pick up some liquid white and go right into this Indian yellow here. And we can pop in a few just right over the top. And it just kind of sets some of that grass down in. And maybe we have a bush. Who knows? Just put it in. Maybe there's just another rock right here. Just put it in. Now we can use our Indian yellow and bright red again to just give a couple ideas of some golden branches up on this tree. You know, throwing paints. That's how you know I'm getting crazy. Just get some yellow and gold and some white. We don't have too much thick paint over here, so we can probably dance in a little bit of this. Maybe yeah, I like it. Okay, I'm gonna do a little bit of liquid white and go into that color and just pop in, if I can, a few areas where it's just a little brighter. And we can pop in a few, maybe some flowers. Just some kind of burnt leaves or something, just to kind of break up some of this color down here. Going to use a touch of a lighter color just to dance on a tiny bit of highlight on some of these branches. I just feel like this needs like a branch here. Doesn't even have to have anything on it, any leaves on it. But we'll do a little bit of cleanup on the shadow here. Something like that. Okay, let's leave that because I don't want to get too crazy and ruin it. I'm going to sign it. Clean off my brush and get into my bright red. Nice and thin. And we'll put a signature, I suppose, right over here. All right. What do you think? A nice little cabin retreat in a golden autumn scene, a little misty, a little moody. I thought it'd be kind of fun. We're gearing up for summertime and it's going to be hot, but I know there's a few of you who are going into the opposite time where it's actually going into winter time. So you guys are seeing these autumn colors. So Kate, let me know what you think about this. And if you see any of these trees in your area. I thought I understood that some of them maybe grew over in New Zealand, but I'm not really sure. So let me know. Let me know in the comments below what you thought about this tutorial. It was a really fun oil painting. I just painted this whole thing in a single sitting. I think you can do it too. Be sure to check the description for the entire paint list so you can paint along. And send me an email with your version of this painting. I would really love to see if you were either inspired by this painting or just watching this video made you want to go paint something completely different on your own. I would love to see what you end up creating after watching this video. So send me an email, Kaylee@KayleeRakowski.com. It'll be right here for you. Send me your email. I look forward to hearing from you. Thank you very much for being here with me again for this week's episode of Tutorial Tuesday. Smile and be happy, friends.